The Heat mounted an incredible comeback to lead the game against the best team in the league, but ultimately costly mistakes robbed them of a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll break down the game and preview a potential playoff matchup versus Cleveland on today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Have a great show for you today, recording this Wednesday night after the Heat nearly pulled off the upset of the season. Down 3 starters, going up against a Cavs team that not only is at the top of the East standings, but has won 11 games in a row. Nobody was giving them a chance. The Heat lost the game, but David, only barely. We'll get into a bit of a controversial ending in a second, but David, my major takeaway from this game, and it was going to be my takeaway regardless of a win or a loss. We may have just seen Bam level up. We've seen him have good games. Right, this is his 5th 30-point game of the season. We've seen him have good games. This wasn't just a good game for him. And it wasn't even just an aggressive game for him, which we've also seen time to time. This, to me, was a mindset shift. The Heat, shorthanded, they did not lay down. Came into this game 11.5-point underdogs. Did not lay down. And it's because Bam decided at some point before tip-off that he was going to be the best player on the court tonight. And he was. He was the best player on the court tonight. 34 points, came out guns blazing, 10 points in the first 7 minutes of this game. He was aggressive, but he was also strategic. He was picking his spots. He was manipulating a very good Cavs defense. And that's why I say this was a level up for Bam. He has gone, in this game, to me, this might be the first game that we remember where Bam has really turned into a scorer. And that, to me, is the difference. When you start manipulating the defense, picking your spots, being strategic with it, not just aggressive and letting it fly. That, to me, was the mindset shift. It was a dominant performance by Bam. Despite the loss, that, to me, is the bigger takeaway coming from this game.
We've seen it building of late. Like, he has had a phenomenal month. He's been much more aggressive. But you're right. Today, you could see it out there. He was barking at Duncan Robinson once when he wasn't cutting. The cameras clearly picked him up talking to Duncan, and you could tell he was frustrated. But there was something else beyond all that. Like, there was something that was clearly him wanting to beat this team and taking ownership of this group. It only took him 60 games to get there, but he's finally realized that with Jimmy gone, this is his team now, and he has to be responsible for carrying them, especially on a night when you can't defer to Tyler Hero because he's not available. He's not on the lineup. So you have to be able to take over the mentality of, this is my team. I can lead them to victory. And he almost did. He was aggressive against Jared Allen, almost taking it personally. He was aggressive against Evan Mobley. His defense was phenomenal. I thought he might have to play the whole fourth quarter based on how good he was and how as soon as they took him out late in the third quarter, it seemed like Cleveland was able to come back and start building a lead of their own. Bam was quickly inserted, and of course, that's when they made their last and final comeback. But just beyond all that, the way he was scoring, how opportunistic he was, looking for the 3 of 5 from 3-point range. That's a really damn good shooting night for a center.
And was really close to being 4 of 6. One was like toe on the line, long 2-pointer. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great game from him. He looks incredible. He looks impressive. There's not much more you could say about it because he was just so good. And you hope that he can continue this because maybe his realization at this point is, I know what this team's capable of, and I know what this team really is. And I had to save myself over the first 30 to 40 games of the year in order to kind of hit another level as we approach the postseason. And maybe he'll be able to sustain it because I don't have any other explanation for it other than maybe he's healthy, or maybe there was a lingering injury that we never heard about, but he's clearly a much better, much more complete player than he was to start the season.
And it was on a night without Khalil Ware, right? We've talked about what Bam can do offensively when he's going up against 4s instead of 5s. It didn't matter tonight. Evan Mobley might be Defensive Player of the Year.
Hmm.
And he cooked them on several occasions and didn't, like, there was moments too where Bam would have Mobley obviously guarding him and he would get the switch and a lot of two-man game stuff with Duncan Robinson that was really fun to watch again. But there was other times where he just sized up Evan Mobley and just went right at him. And that's not easy to do. Like I said, Evan Mobley might win Defensive Player of the Year, and rightfully so. He's an incredible defender. He did get him once in the first quarter when Bam tried to fake him out with a couple of pump fakes, and Mobley got the block on there. But after that, nothing. Like, Mobley really didn't get anything on Bam. I don't know what the dynamic shift is, but that's why I keep going back to the mindset thing. Post Jimmy Butler, the Heat needs somebody with size, an advantage creator. Tyler Hero is sensational. He's different, right? He's a perimeter-oriented player. I know he gets to the basket and stuff like that too. But he's not physically imposing the way that Jimmy Butler was or even the way that Bam Adebayo is when he's playing like this. And I think when you walk in with just sort of that Mamba mentality of, I know we're shorthanded, I don't care, I'm laying it all out there. Yeah. There are so many players, 99.9% of players, who would have just been like, we'll see what we got tonight. If not, no big deal. Live another day. He didn't. And it was just a tremendous effort. I mean, 34 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, shot 61% overall. You already mentioned the three-pointers, got to the line, made all 9 of his free throws.
Yeah.
It was downright heroic.
Disappointing they couldn't pull out the victory.
He did have a costly. I mean, I am disappointed, but like, are we going to look back on this potentially and say this was truly the start of the Bam Adebayo era, the end of the Jimmy Butler era, and the start of the Bam? What he was tonight was a top 15 player in the league. That's what he was tonight. And I don't know if it's going to be that every night. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No. Yeah.
But if there's a mindset shift within him, and he kind of does the thing that Heat fans have been wanting him to do for so long.
Yeah.
And that's like, he was bending Cleveland's defense. I've never seen him do that. I've always talked about how remarkable it is that he's even a 20-point per game scorer, considering how raw he was as a rookie.
Sure.
This is not a guy with a scoring bone in his body. The fact that he has become what he's become and is going to be second all time in Heat points by the end of next season is a borderline miracle. And it's a testament more to the work that he's put in Miami's player development. But I've never seen him, like, to your point, calling out for screens, waiting for cutters, the patience that he's playing with, not just by the basket, we've seen that, but patience all over the floor, getting to his baseline spot, getting to his sweet spots, the assists that he even had, attracting 2 defenders in the paint and then flipping it over to Kevin Love to get Kevin Love into his sweet spot by the basket. Yeah. It was an understanding and a feel for the game and a bending of a defense that I've never seen Bam do before.
There were plays there, and I think it was at least 2 possessions that I saw where the refs and the league in general is allowing much more physicality this season, which I think is generally a good thing. And Bam's certainly taking advantage of that. He elbowed Jared Allen out of the way. Like, no, I need space. And he just shoved him with the left, cleared that space out, and it was like, okay, now I can finish at the rim much more easily. And that was drawing fouls too. The jumper was smooth. Like not just from 3, but just in general. I mean, there was a possession there where the shot clock was expiring and he winds up with a ball in his hands unexpectedly, and he winds up nailing a shot to kind of keep the possession alive. I mean, and the effort too, the rebounding effort was sensational. I know we're talking about his scoring. That's what's going to draw a lot of attention. But there were moments there, like between him and Kyle Anderson, who deserves a lot of credit. They would have gotten a substantial amount of credit cookies if they had pulled off the win. Like, they were just really actively hunting these rebounds and capitalizing on spacing and figuring out the timing, despite being undersized against Mobley and Allen. And so you've got to give them a lot of credit for just putting in an incredible effort. I don't know if it's the beginning of the Bam era, because for one, he's been playing for 6 seasons now, and he's been starting consistently. Yes. So it's a little different, but if he can continue this level of production, this is a very different and dangerous Heat team if he's
Yeah.
playing this good, because you have that
And
complement now between him and Tyler, and that's 2 all-star level scorers. And that's exactly what this team needs him to be. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like there is some truth in my kind of reading between the lines and saying, you know what, maybe he was just saving himself because he knows what this team is, and he knows that maybe they're just not on paper good enough to really contend for a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. So they're going to have to be in a battle regardless. And knowing that, you kind of have to push yourself to another level as the season progresses. I'm not sure exactly
he
what the
chose
reasoning
tonight
behind
down
it.
3 starters to stop saving himself. I don't know. It still doesn't explain the just missing so many shots in an uncharacteristic way. Like that's not, you don't save yourself by shortbreading a bunch of jumpers,
That's fair.
right?
That's
So
fair. I mean, like, there's been the finding your place in the offense, the
I
fit.
think he was just, I think it was just a slump too. I think that's fine.
It's
Like
possible.
last 15 games though, no slump. 22
No.
points. This is not even including tonight's game. Before the 15 games going into this one, 22 points per game on 56% shooting, 10 rebounds and 4 assists. That's all NBA stuff. And it's what we've kind of expected from Bam going into this season. I also think not having Tyler Hero out there was meaningful because it couldn't just allow Bam to be like, you be the scorer, I'm going to do everything else. Bam said, I have to do all of it now. I've got to do all of it tonight. And I want, even when Tyler Hero comes back, to your point, that has the potential to be a dynamic duo, a high-scoring duo. Something like, I don't know, could it be Giannis and Dame South Beach edition? Where you just have these 2 like 27, 24 point per game scores, whatever it's going to be, leading their offense, and then role players kind of, holding up the back end of it. I don't know, but if this is the beginning of something, I don't know what we need to call it, but if it's the beginning of something, man, it really did feel like it in this game. We're going to dive into the particulars of this game, including a controversial ending, next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether it's friends, family, mentors, or other professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help just makes them better. And therapy is one of the best ways to build a strong support system. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. There's so many benefits, and just it impacts you on an everyday level. It's not just about crisis moments. It's a tool for self-improvement, stress management, and navigating life's challenges, whatever they might be. So build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Ariete Hospitality Group. Hey, Miami Heat fans, are you looking to elevate your game day experience? Well, check out 2 must-visit spots just steps away from the Kaseya Center in downtown Miami. First up, Brasserie Laurel, a culinary gem in the Miami World Center, recommended by the Michelin Guide. Laurel offers an upscale French brasserie experience, blending old world charm with modern flair. Whether you're enjoying delicious bites or sipping craft cocktails, it's the perfect spot before or after the game. And don't miss their happy hour specials every day from 5 to 7 p.m. Next, head over to El Vecino, a sophisticated cigar bar with a laid-back vibe. It's the ideal pre- or post-game hangout, or even a place to watch the game. Enjoy exceptional cocktails, bites, and a welcoming atmosphere for all, including non-smokers. They've got a happy hour daily from 4 to 7 p.m. Both of these incredible venues are part of the Ariete Hospitality Group, known for elevating Miami's dining scene. Don't miss out on these game-changing spots. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team is a free daily newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Heat newsletter, one stop for ultimate Heat and league coverage with local analysis and amazing writing from Katie Heindel, Mike Shear, and Locked On Fantasy Basketball tips from Josh Lloyd. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. Rundown on the highlights of today's game. Cavs come in winners of their last 11. Heat come in missing 3 starters. Kevin Love gets the start and the tribute video in his first game back in Cleveland. Bam opened up the game with a corner 3 and then had 10 points in the first 7 minutes. We got a vintage Duncan Robinson game in this one as well. 5 of 10 overall, but 4 of 8 from three-point range. So doing most of his work from beyond the arc. He finishes with 14 points. Davion Mitchell was dishing and defending Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs tried to box and one at one point in this game. The Heat used a bunch of zone, especially in the fourth quarter. And then we got to the end of this game. A weird ending. The one blip on Bam's game overall had Max Strus one-on-one on the left baseline, loses the ball out of bounds with 27 seconds left. Didn't even look like Max even tipped it. I didn't see Max get a hand on it. It just sort of slipped out of his hands. The Heat were down 3 at the time, so that was a tough one. But then Kyle Anderson came back, forces a turnover on Donovan Mitchell. Sensational Kyle Anderson play, and you already mentioned, great game from Kyle Anderson overall. And then the Heat get the inbounds play. Skip pass to Duncan Robinson. Amazing pass again from Kyle Anderson on the inbound. Skip pass to Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson sort of floating backwards beyond the arc on the opposite side of the floor. And it looks like he steps out of bounds. He made the game-tying 3, but because he stepped out of bounds, it doesn't count. Heat lose the game. Tough way to lose the game there. Do you think he stepped out of bounds?
I think the replay kind of shows his foot kind of nudging over the line a little bit. So I hate it. And in the moment and the highlights that they show, the replays, you can't see it as clearly, but that left foot kind of nudges a little bit against the line. So it's hard to tell.
What broadcast were you watching?
I was watching it on FanDuel.
So I was watching ESPN. So ESPN only gave me the straightaway kind of looking at Duncan Robinson from like kind of below the basket. Yeah. Is that okay? So I didn't get another angle. You didn't get another angle besides that?
Not until afterwards. I saw an image kind of floating around the internet that kind of shows that left foot. But yes, you're right. From that perspective under the basket, you can't see exactly where his left foot is. So it looks like it's just inside the line. But when you look at it from the reverse angle, from the opposing basket, you can see clearly that it kind of touches the line, but it might have been like 1/8 of an inch. It might have been such a small, insignificant amount. I don't know. You know, it shouldn't boil down to that.
Don't you wish we had soccer rules where they just sort of like, this is the spirit of the game. You're not really out of bounds. Like, let's just keep playing on.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it seems like it's bitten the Heat before on so many occasions. Obviously,
did you think about Max Strus?
The Max Strus. Yeah, I thought that was the first one. I don't know, dozen times Josh Richardson went out of bounds years ago. Like it felt like that was always the case. I mean, there's been like it happens, but it never should have boiled down to that point anyway. Like you mentioned the Bam turnover. I think he was just trying to size up Max, and he was preparing himself for the drive and to just yam it on his head. And unfortunately, his hands weren't ready yet. He just lost the ball.
It was a pretty dramatic kind of. He had that swing to the left side, obviously towards that baseline. I think he was sort of sizing him up, also maybe trying to kind of get into a position to draw a foul and maybe get an and one there with maybe like a dramatic swing, get Max to bite. Hit the baseline jumper and maybe get the foul and one and tie the game. Such a shame, man. Again, one blip on an otherwise spotless and perfect and important Bam Adebayo game. I don't know that it shouldn't have never come down to that. The only reason it shouldn't have come down to that is that the Heat should have just gotten blown out by double-digit points because of the team that they were playing. It's sort of miraculous that they were even in that position. I'm not a moral victory guy, but it's hard. Like, I do think that there's going to be stuff to take away from this game. You obviously would have preferred the win. I'm not trying to say that that's not disappointing, but this is almost equally as a proof of concept of what it is that the Heat are trying to build, right? Like, we're talking about 1/8 of an inch of a Duncan Robinson shoe, and maybe the Heat have a W instead of an L. I don't know that materially change. It doesn't change the way the game was played.
Well, I mean, you're missing 4 players, 3 key players in Jaime Jaquez Jr., so that's like a heavy rotation piece. Obviously, he would have gotten some minutes, and he probably would have been a little bit more effective, I think, being out there. But we're kind of like stepping around the obvious elephant in the room here, and that's Terry Rozier. Like, I'm sorry, like Terry was horrific tonight. And I know we've got some questions about why he's playing, and maybe we'll just address it now. I don't know why he's playing. I don't know why he's getting more minutes than Davion Mitchell. I don't know why he's even on this roster at this point, other than he's getting paid and you made the move of trying to acquire him. You never want to bag on one particular player, and I know it's not always his fault, and I know it's become too, easy for Heat fans to make him the scapegoat. He deserves all the blame tonight. Like, there was the turnover. I don't know why you're soloing me out here. I got the ISO here
because I was sneezing. I didn't
okay, all right. I thought you were going to just put me on here for the rant.
Here you go, ISO.
Lifetime. But
go bam about you versus Max Strus. Go for it.
Except I'll hang on to the ball this time because it's easy pickings against Terry Rozier. Just horrific shooting, just when Miami's building a lead, like he just two costly turnovers that were like, I don't even call them brain farts. It was like cerebral diarrhea out on the floor. It was just so terrible of him. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of dribbling. Whoops. Let me just dribble the ball straight to get away from me. Like, I have no idea. And then on one possession, the shot clock's expiring. Dribble, dribble, dribble. Let me just keep hanging on to this for some reason. There's somebody that looks kind of like Haywood Highsmith. Let me kind of lamely throw it in that general direction. Oh, what's that? An easy steal from Darius Garland? Sure, why not? Like, what the hell are you doing out there? Like, this isn't even an NBA level player at this point in time. I have no idea how to explain why he's getting minutes, much less more minutes than a guy like Davion Mitchell, who's at least busting his ass and giving you 120% every time he's out on the floor. Terry Rozier brings nothing to the table right now. He shouldn't sniff the court for the rest of the season. I don't care if you're missing 8 players. He shouldn't be out there. Like, you just either forfeit the game rather than playing Terry Rozier for an extended minute. Like, there should be no reason why he's getting any kind of playing time. I hate doing this because I really don't like picking these players because obviously he's an NBA player. We've seen it. He's had big moments, but those seem like such a distant memory at this time. I cannot recall the last time he even had an effective shot. It's just, his shooting was horrific. His shot selection was even worse. His mishandling of the ball was just mind-numbing. I don't know what he's doing out there. He doesn't defend. I don't know. What else could you say? He shouldn't be out there. Like, he should not be playing minutes at this point in time. I'd rather play anybody as your quote-unquote point guard over Terry Rozier. I'd rather have Kevin Love handling the ball than Terry Rozier, to be honest with you.
So ESPN recently released this new stat, net points added. So it takes like the net points that a player adds offensively and then subtracts it from whatever that player gives up defensively. And you kind of get this formula, this equation, and it pops out a number at the end. Terry Rozier has cost the Heat, I think I'm reading this right, almost 104 points this season. He's like minus 70 points on offense, net points on offense, and giving up almost 34 points on defense. I think that's like for the season, which is still a lot. That, yeah, according to this metric, is the 12th worst player in the league.
I'm not surprised.
Above 1, 2, 3, 4 Washington Wizards, who should not count because they're not trying to win basketball games. That's pretty wild.
That is.
And
that is. He's clearly the
also
worst player
not at all
roster.
surprising based on his performance this season.
The only explanation is maybe there is some shred of like the idea that they're tanking. Like, I can't justify it anymore.
Well, let's put a pin in this because we have a question about Terry Rozier. We got to take a break, so we'll get to all of this on the other side. Plus, what is the one piece that the Heat actually are missing? I have a feeling it's not Terry Rozier, according to David. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or you want to bet on fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature. It keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is really easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Who doesn't love that? Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. The best way to support the show, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. We're going to get to some listener questions. Thanks as always to those who sent in questions via the Locked On Heat Insider community. You can sign up with the link in the show notes. A. Lamas writes in, should Terry Rozier have been in the closing lineup? ? Malachi writes in, does Terry Rozier have the Miami Heat front office or coaching staff blackmailed or something? How does he still get so many minutes when we were shorthanded like tonight, but nothing is working for him overall? Tiffany writes in, Why would Spo play Terry the whole fourth and not play Mitchell over him? Mitchell was shooting 60%. Terry was shooting 21%. Mitchell is better on defense also. We have a lot of questions about Haywood Highsmith. We just got done talking about Haywood Highsmith, or not Haywood Highsmith, sorry, Terry Rozier. Look, I don't really know. Tonight, I suppose I understand the reason why Terry Rozier would be in the rotation. Eric Spoelstra tried to pull him from the rotation, and then everybody got hurt, and then he had to put him back in the rotation. I understand you're shorthanded, everybody's got to play. But to play him 40 minutes, and I texted you in the fourth quarter, you're just sort of waiting for Davion Mitchell to check back in. Davion goes to the scores table, like 3 minutes left. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We got Davion Mitchell coming back in. And he pulls Duncan Robinson, who was having a great game and only played 29 minutes in this game versus 40 minutes for Terry Rozier. He pulls Duncan Robinson instead of Terry Rozier to bring Davion Mitchell in the game. There's a lot of rotation questions we get, but just that by itself sort of distills all of my confusion when it comes to Terry Rozier. Why would he get the most minutes on the team tonight? He got more minutes than Bam. That's the part that I can't figure out.
My only thought process is, as ludicrous as it sounds, first of all, I know I say that maybe there's a tanking mentality from Spo. I don't buy that. I can't really accept that. It's just too impossible. I don't think that's likely what he's thinking. The only alternative I can see is that he wants to restore Terry's faith and maybe by showing him support on such an obvious way, he might kickstart some transformation into being the player that he was even late last season when they acquired him, and give him that boosted confidence to tell you, look, I'm still in your corner. I'm still playing you. One of these days it's going to click. And then from that point forward, you're going to just be the better version that we thought you were going to be. Because other than that there's no explanation for it. Like, again, we've been critical of Spo this season because he has made some bad choices. And I think certainly playing Terry is one of them. But there has to be, he's just too intelligent a person, Eric Spoelstra is, for there not to be some kind of reason behind this. And so the only thing I can come up with is that he's trying to give Terry that boost of confidence so that eventually it will spark and reignite him into being a half-decent NBA player out there. Because right now he's far from that. And maybe it'll just click at some point. Look, we saw Bam go through a whole start to a season where he was pretty bad. And maybe the baseline is a lot higher, and when he has a drop-off, it's much more severe. But man, watching Terry go out there and crap the bed repeatedly, and like there's just no point to it. And I agree with you 100%. Like, I don't understand why you're taking Duncan out. Like, bring somebody in. Take Terry out. Take Terry out. Like, you need Duncan. You have to bring him back in for that 3-point shot anyway. What's Terry doing out there? Like, this idea of having to have some guard to bring the ball up. I mean, don't you have a point forward center on your team in Bam Adebayo? Isn't he out there? Like, can't Davion Mitchell, once he is reinserted into the game, can he bring the ball up? Like, what is Terry doing other than kind of lamely attacking the basket on occasion and just coughing the ball up and not doing anything?
And to your point with Duncan Robinson, he pulled him from the rotation altogether. He didn't play. When Duncan was in a shooting slump, you're not playing anymore. They got to midway through the season, he's just like, it's just not your year. And he pulled him. And he had Max Strus at least at that point to be like, well, we're just going to give all your minutes to Max Strus, and we got Tyler Hero, and we could figure it out. But and so I understood playing Terry Rozier after Drew Smith got hurt and before you traded for Davion Mitchell.
Sure.
But now you have Davion Mitchell. Isaiah Stevens was active in this game. Josh Christopher was active in this game. Alec Burks is here and has played some point guard. I don't know what the thing is other than, and I think you already nailed it. Eric Spoelstra, it might be, and it probably is as simple as well, he's due. It can't be this bad. He is not literally the worst player in the NBA. We know that. He's playing like it, but he's not the worst player in the NBA. At some point, this thing has to turn around. And maybe Eric Spoelstra is looking at this and saying, well, I only got 8, 9 players available, whatever it is. Might as well just force it to him. But even you could go down that path, and then where the logic falls apart is, why is he leading the team in minutes?
Yeah.
That's where none of this adds up, and that's why I can't figure it out. And I don't know. This might be another Spo oversight in a season where there's been oversights. Maybe Eric Spoelstra didn't realize that he played Terry Rozier 40 minutes. I don't know. I have no idea what happened. He was the only player on the team. I don't know. Not really. Even Davion Mitchell can get to the basket and force some pressure. I can't figure it out. We're talking in circles. Let's move on to some other questions here. Zay writes in, are we actually one scoring piece away from serious contention? I think this team is one major scoring piece, like an elite scorer away from going from middling 500-ish team that they've been for 3 years now in the play-in tournament to a team that can win 50 games in a regular season. I think they're and then compete at the highest level in the Eastern Conference playoffs. I think that they are that one scoring piece, elite scoring piece away. That I do believe that.
I agree. I mean, they'll have to clean up some things, but I think the role players are there. The mentality is there, and it kind of wanes and comes and goes, and we see that on occasion. But I think the organization's too smart. The stability is too consistent. I think there's so many good things about this team that when you get that elite player on there, it will make the rest of this team, it will congeal. Like, I've talked about it before in terms of adding Jimmy Butler. Like, if nothing else, because you weren't getting that kind of high level production from him when he first joined the team in 2019. It was just about establishing a very needed hierarchy for a roster of middling players. Like, Bam was getting his first starting opportunity in 2019. Goran Dragic was older, but still capable of greatness on occasion. You had a couple other players. Tyler Hero was a rookie. He was kind of in and out there. You weren't quite sure what to do with him. Duncan Robinson, he was a good role player. Certainly had hit some shots up to that point.
And then to your point, you would see what would happen when Jimmy Butler became that elite scorer in the playoffs. This team became unbeatable almost, right? It was all of it, to your point, everything just sort of clicks into place, right? The Bam can become the proper number 2. Tyler Hero can become a proper number 2 or number 3 and play more off the ball. When you have somebody dominating the ball and being a dominant scorer in that way, maybe it is Bam that becomes that guy. I don't know that he does become that guy, but this team, either way, is going to, I do think, is that elite scoring piece away from serious contention. Last one here, William B. writes in, what does this team need to get Bam the ball more? So Bam had 18 shots in this game.
Yeah.
But he also had more than that because of the free throw attempts. So he like 20-plus scoring chances in this game for Bam. I think that's great. I think his usage rating was right where you want it to be. In terms of what the Heat have to do to get the ball to him more, I would be, if I'm Eric Spoelstra, I am hanging a small video screen in Bam's locker and just putting this game on repeat endlessly. He always be watching this game, Bam. I would just be showing him clips from this game all the time. Look how close we were to beating the best team in the East with just you out there. And Terry Rozier doing everything he could to bring you down. Look how close we were. You could do this with Tyler Hero back, Andrew Wiggins back. Be this guy. Let them fall into place around you. I think my favorite Bam shot was when he forced a mid-range jumper. And he missed it. Yeah. And I loved it. Great scorers have to force shots that other players might be uncomfortable taking. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I think what does the Heat need to do to get Bam the ball more? Bam just needs to go get it. Just go get it.
Well said. I mean, it was a phenomenal game, and it showed what he's capable of when he's at his very best. And I think it's just tantalizing enough to recognize he's capable of greatness, and he has to just tie it all together. Hopefully that mind shift that you talked about is kind of there and consistent, and we hope to see it for the rest of the season. Because, I mean, you look, like, you get Wiggins out there, you get Hero out there, you get Ware out there, they're healthy, and Miami can go on that run that we've been talking about so much lately, where they're just going to win more than a handful of games and they can string something together. Maybe it won't be against the very best of the best, and this is a Cavs team that was fully healthy. And Miami still competed with them to the very last few seconds. And so, despite the anchor of Terry Rozier weighing you down, this team has an opportunity to achieve something if they can play their very best, and hopefully we'll get to see it from Bam Adebayo.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.